Hi, my name is Christine Lavelle and I'm here to teach you about rose pruning today. Now, I've come to a friend's garden with our resident birds here and we're going to have a look at this rose. And the first thing that you should think about when you're pruning is to take your dead, your diseased and your dying and damaged wood out first before you even start to think about what you're going to prune. There's a bit of dead here and we've got quite a bit of dead here. So I'm going to remove that before we have a look at whatever we've got left. So I've got a pair of loppers for this. My secateurs would be too, they wouldn't have enough strength to get some of this stuff out. Now this one here, I am going to remove this big one here because there's a lot of new growths. So I'm going to take it down here. Quite a big growth. That's like a rose. That's like a rose bush in itself. I'm going to use some of this to show you the proper pruning cuts as well a bit later, but I'm going to put that to the side. But can you see now just how open that's made that particular rose bush? It's quite a brave step, but you have to be brave when you prune. And now I've got that out, I'm just going to take that down to the appropriate level now. That's cutting really well. There's a bit of dead just over that bit, I'll get that bit later. And if I take this one out, do I take it out or don't I take it out? There's quite a lot of dead in here. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take it out and then work with this central bit here. I was saying to a group that I teach at Rittall University College, I think just last week, that I've pruned for, it's not even hours, it's not even weeks, it's probably months in the whole time that I've worked in horticulture. And every bush is different when you come back to it. So it doesn't matter, just to say, the point is that it doesn't matter how many years or months or that you've been working in horticulture. When you approach a plant, you've got to really assess it and see what you're going to do with it. So that one there, that was what was really apparent to me to take this one out. And then I'm further assessing it now. And I'm thinking, well, actually, even if I prune this, I can only prune it in these top parts here. And it still leaves this really unsightly leg here. So actually, if I take that off, you've got all this young stuff that's left in this congregation over here. So I'm going to remove that, and that will hopefully encourage some new buds to come from the base. So this bit here is too big for my loppers. So I'm now going to go to my next tool that I'm going to use, and I'm going to use a saw. And I love this tool. This is a Grecian saw. It's just the same type of saw that you get, Felco or Still, where you get these fold up ones with the double blades on there. This one doesn't fold up, however. And so, but I really like this particular one here. Now, the great thing I like about it is if you had loppers, you've got to get into somewhere and open up the handles, and very often then you bruise the actual stems themselves. Whereas the saw just can fit in between branches, and it's great if you're going to selectively thin out branches or take out bigger ones that are in the centre. So this is the Grecian saw. I'm going to use it for taking out this bigger branch here. It's a bit wobbly. And this is what happens with older roses. It gets this wind rock. I'm just going to rock it so you can see. So that's called wind rock damage. And that's where really in the winter time, all your hips should be taken off, and you should take off about a third of the growth in the winter time. And well, when I say the winter time, usually about November you would do that, October, November. And then just chop them off there so the weight isn't on the top, and it's the weight that can rock it like this. So that's just a little tip. You can maybe just put some soil there and try and stabilise it. Right, here we go. Right, I'm going to take this off right down here. So the thing with the Grecian saw is you don't put it in the forward motion first. It works by pulling it. Oh, it's cutting. I haven't cut for ages. So I'm steadying it with my left hand, pulling with my right, and I'll give you a a big major tip that I found from doing pruning during the years. You get to the end pull and then it starts to tear. So when it looks like you're getting to the very end, just give it a quick pull as fast as you can. I can feel it's just about there, and I'm going to. Then sometimes it doesn't work. I'll just give it another one, and there you go. And that's giving it a nice, just a little tear, just on there. That's it. So that is just to show you again, because this is quite an old rose. So this is the second bit. So we've got this bit. So these are the 2 growths that we've taken out already. And then look at what we've got left now. It's some really nice material to work with. So we've taken out nearly all our dead, diseased, dying, and we're left with some really nice younger shoots. And then I'm going to go for my third type of pieces of equipment now. I'm going to go for my secateurs. I'm going to go for my Felco secateurs. Now, I'm not getting any money from Felco for saying this, but I really love my Felco secateurs. This is a Felco 8. They're my husband's because I couldn't find mine today. I have a number 2 and I like my number 2s. They're just bog standard, but you can get them where they've got roll bars on them, and these are really for people who are maybe arthritic or they're older and they find pruning the tougher branches quite tricky, and the roll bar moves round and it's not quite so hard on your finger, on your joints and so on. Personally, I feel a bit queasy when I use them. I don't like them. And then with Felco as well, you can get a left-handed pair of secateurs. Now we've got a dead, diseased and dying and damaged wood out. What we're left with is the main body, and that's what we're going to work with. So the next plan of action in your head you should be thinking about is, I want to get a really nice open goblet shape, and I want to prune to outward facing buds, and I want to prune to for a hybrid tea rose, I want to prune to about 2 to 3 buds from the base. And it's going to look quite drastic at the end. So maybe you've heard that old adage, get your worst enemy to prune your roses, because they think they're doing a disservice by pruning them back really hard. But actually, that's what your roses need, and because hard pruning induces vigorous new growth. Right, okay, so let's have a look at our growth. So this is what we're left with. So I always take a stem at a time. So this is a first stem. So I work my way down here and I look for an outward facing bud. Sometimes you've got to do a bit of yoga down here, and at my age it's a bit more difficult. So we've got an outward facing bud here. Do you see that? Just one here. We've got one here, but these are too high up. I'm going to see if there's one round about here. Oh, and that's super, because I've got one here. It could be here or here, but I've got one here, and that's going to grow out this way, which will be ideal. Do you see that? So the outward facing bud is where you've got a line, and then you've got a little dot just here. That will produce the bud. So I'm just going to go just above it, and I'm going to do a slanty cut down to the back. There we are. So here we've got a bud, and I'm going to turn that round to the side now. So if that was our outward facing bud, I'm going to take my secateurs just above it. It's a bit tricky when you've got, and then I'm going to do a slight slant cut. There we are. So the bottom of the cut should still be above where you've got the bud, because otherwise, I'll show you what you shouldn't be doing in a minute, because otherwise, if it was any lower than that, this bit would dry out, and then the bud would dry out, and then it would die. And then it would be the bud below which would then break, which might be to the inward part, which you don't want of the rose bush. So just make sure you do it like that. If it was cut like this, so the bud's still showing, but that would dry out, and that would most certainly die, that one there. So just above into a slant. And the reason you do a slant is the rain falls down and it comes off the back and dribbles down the back of the stem instead of onto the bud, so it saves it from rotting the bud. If it's a bit of a tricky situation, sometimes I just do a flat cut above, but I do still try to do a slanted cut. So I'm just now going to go round the whole of the bush now, taking every individual stem on an individual basis, and then working my way down, having a look for an outward facing bud, and then taking it just above. And so the hard work was really in the taking out the dead, disease, dying, and then trying to clear the centre. This is the easy peasy part now. If you've got too many good stems, you actually don't have to keep them all. You can thin these out as well, you know, just keep your best ones and take other ones out, because it's not really good to have them so overcrowding. So I'm going to take this one now. There's one just here which is ideal, so I'm going to take that. There we are. Oh, and I've got another little tip for you while we're here, just nice and close up. Where you've got your secateurs and then you've got the bud here, if you're going to prune where you've got your two blades that are going to meet, and actually underneath it, that's not exactly the cut, but they meet. If you do your cut and you have your secateurs the other way around, you can see here where you're going to cut, your bottom blade is below the cut point, and then you see how it's really getting in there and squashing the stem, and you can see the damage on here. So just to go over that again, you want to make sure that where you've got your two cutting blades, your two blades, that they are both above the bud as such, and not the other way around like that. Oh, sorry, like that. Okay, right, we're just going to move on. We've got another bit of dead down here that I'm going to remove. So that's coming out. It's coming out. It's coming out. Right, so we've got an outward facing bud here, and we've got one down here. I think I'm going to do it for here. Okay, but either one would be correct. There we are. Now this is where you've got this one in the middle is crossing with this one here. Do I keep this one or do I keep this one? I would be quite inclined to take this one out. It's a bit older. You're really looking for about 6 rows, so we've got 1, 2, 3, this is 4. So it would have been better if we had another one, but hopefully from this hard pruning, it might induce some new buds from the base. And this one here, we've got an outward facing bud here. So that's a bit of a weaker shoot. So if we get some younger ones, that one could come out next year. And then I'm just going to prune that bit there. And that, in terms of the pruning, that's it. So just to summarise, we've taken our dead, diseased and dying out. I can always trim, you can always just go and trim some of these bits up. So I've taken the dead, diseased and dying out. I've then taken some overcrowding branches out, and then I've been left to create a goblet shape for my hybrid tea rose. I've taken each one down to an outward facing bud, round about sort of 2 to 3 buds from the bottom, maybe just a few more here. I've got one here, one here, one here, and these are perfect. These are lovely shoots to deal with. Then I've got quite an older one here, and if I had it more like this next year, I would remove this. Because I've pruned it hard, you're going to get really sort of big flowers and you won't get as many of them. If I'd pruned it a little bit lighter, I would have got smaller flowers, but I would have got more of them. So it's your choice really what you do. And then the next thing, because we've taken out so much growth, and I'll just take you over to show you again just how much we've removed. But this hadn't been done for a couple of years, so because we've taken out so much growth, you've got to replace the nutrients that we've removed here that are within the stems. So I'm going to, next thing, I'm going to clear around the rows, and then I'm going to apply a fertiliser. I particularly like fish blood and bone, and it would go on about 70 grams per square metre. I would fork it over, and if you've got any organic mulch you can put on top, such as we've got some herbaceous plants, so manure might not be best in amongst the herbaceous plants, maybe like garden compost or mushroom compost, something like that would be ideal around the base as well, just to keep a bit more moisture in during the summer. So from my friend's garden here in Nayland, it's goodbye from me, and I hope you've enjoyed our little video. Thank you.